Pokemon vs Digimon, which is better? It is a classic debate that has been burning on for over 20 years. And today we are going to zero in on the anime factor of the debate with a definitive comparison of the two shows. So kindly request your Agumon to cross-chop that like button right in the crunchies, and let's jump right in. Hey everyone, it's Charles. How are you today? Pokemon, Digimon, Pikachu, Agumon, Ash, Goggle Guys, Gardevoir, Angelwoman. We are going to compare the games, the toys, and the cards of these two universes another day, but now is the time to put the Pokemon anime and the Digimon anime on the table and dig in. To quickly establish some context, neither of these anime were adapted from popular manga, as is the case with most heavy-hitting anime. Rather, they were created as multimedia extensions of franchises rooted in games and toys, with Ash Ketchum's story emerging on April 1st, 1997 as a marketing pillar to support the game series that had launched a year earlier in February 1996, and Digimon Adventure originating on March 7th, 1999 to promote Bandai's Digimon virtual pet toys, which first hit the market back in June 1997. Let's not beat around the Bulbasaur. Digimon has been labeled a Pokemon clone since day one, and, well, that simply isn't true, especially when it comes to the anime. Aside from the fact that they are both about humans and monsters working together to do things, the two shows do not actually have that much in common. So let's compare them in terms of their stories, their characters, and their strengths to get a better understanding of how they are different and perhaps even some fresh perspectives on the shows themselves. Are you ready? Here we go. If you frequent this channel, I'm sure you are no stranger to the adventures of Ash Ketchum. Since 1997, the Pokemon anime has been all about Ash Ketchum and his quest to become a Pokemon master by battling his way through the world's regions, collecting badges, participating in league conferences, and building an increasingly large harem of women and monkey Pokemon. The beginning of each Pokemon anime series is aligned with the launch of the main Pokemon games, at which point Ash will go through a soft reset of sorts and travel to a different region to build a brand new team of Pokemon and to meet new friends. By and large, the Pokemon anime is a simple but charming story about a boy who seeks to do everything to better himself, to win championships, and make a splash in the lives of the people around him along the way. It's pretty lighthearted. Ash is always front and center, or front and a little bit to the left these days, and his adventures unfold on a floating timeline, and as such, he never ages and is able to just continue adventuring until the end of time. Digimon, on the other hand, has always placed more stock in its storytelling, said bye-bye tie to roll with a new cast of characters in each series, and pushes its characters along a moving timeline. In a nutshell, each Digimon series follows a group of characters known as Digidestined, tasked with preventing some kind of calamity, or simply groups of tamers. Tamers being a general term for people who are partnered with Digimon. A term which also makes it sound like we just won tickets to the circus, but anyways. Unlike Pokemon, the Digimon stories are set across two worlds instead of one. The real world of humans and the digital world inhabited by Digimon. And it's interesting seeing the interplay between these two worlds, particularly when it comes to how the family lives of the main cast members have influenced who they are and who they will become. Guess what? Some of these kids have some pretty messed up family lives. And whereas Pokemon usually distances the main characters from their poopy parents, Digimon pulls all of this baggage right into the spotlight. And this was always one of my favorite things about the show, next to Angelwoman, of course. As you can see, the premise of the Digimon anime is quite different from the simple and clean story of Mr. Harry Potter Cheeks, wherein Ash battles towards achieving his predetermined goals and towards becoming the very best like no one ever was by essentially working through a series of sporting events. And that is really what the Pokemon anime is, a sports adventure anime. Training, battling, slice of life episodes, you may as well call it the Prince of Pokeballs. So we have this solid sports anime dressed up as a fantasy adventure, and at the corner of it, Sakuragi Ketchum is working his eternally hairless butt cheeks off in order to better himself, and notably doing it all of his own free will. By comparison, the Digidestined of the Digimon anime were chosen to be heroes rather than aspiring to be heroes themselves. And I mean, of course, they probably wouldn't have chosen to spend their childhoods fighting purple lipstick vampires with power chins or creepy Elvis monkeys and watching their friends get killed if they had had a say in the matter, because as cool as Digimon are, that experience probably wasn't very fun. And the thing is, they don't even know why this is all happening to them for the first stretch of the anime. In Digimon Adventure 01, the Digidestined are just enjoying life at a summer camp when suddenly they are warped to a bizarre island full of pink poop and creatures who mostly seem to want them to die. It sure isn't Pallet Town, and nobody has any idea why they are there or what exactly they have to do, and the nature of their quest, the reason they were summoned to the digital world, only becomes apparent as the plot progresses, and there are all kinds of twists that keep things interesting, as well as occurrences that reveal some pretty big whys behind why certain characters are the way they are. Most of the subsequent seasons have retained this sense of mystery, giving us many great story arcs with surprisingly mature themes for a quote-unquote kids show. And this focus on answering the why is another key difference between Digimon and Pokemon, Pokemon being an anime that is fixated more so on the how. Ash's quest in Kanto began with a very clear goal: to collect the 8 Kanto gym badges and compete in the Pokemon League. There isn't any overarching mystery as to what Ash's purpose is, no world-ending scenario driving him to take action outside of a few subplots with some fairly ineffectual villains, and no creepy vampires with strong chins. The point is, we know exactly why Ash is adventuring and what he aims to achieve straight from the get-go. So instead of progressing the story by pooping out big reveal after big reveal and keeping the show exciting with various plot twists, it's all about how Ash is going to build his team and win his battles. The badges and the league conferences are staked out on exactly the same kind of framework of milestones as the prefectural rankings and inter-high championships of a show like Slam Dunk, Haikyuu, or any other sports anime, which is again why I think Pokemon has a lot more in common with these types of shows than your typical fantasy adventure anime. To say it again, the story of Pokemon is all about the how behind Ash's progress against a set of predefined goals, whereas Digimon's story answers the why, as the characters figure out their roles, unravel mysteries, and step up to tackle some pretty harrowing tasks and chins. This gives the two anime a very different flavor in terms of their story structure, and they deviate even further when it comes to the characters. Let's just say that the humans and the monsters of these two anime are not exactly cookies of the same cut. Let's talk about the humans first. Since Digimon's cast changes every season, we'd probably have to spend half an hour to say much of anything about these characters, so let's just focus on the original Digimon Adventure cast for our comparison. Perhaps the biggest similarity in the human casts of Pokemon and Digimon is in the typical anime leads, Ash and Taichi. Like Luffy or Asta, both are somewhat idiotic but also courageous and ready to leap into action to protect their friends. But that is really where the similarities end. On the Pokemon side of things, Ash usually travels with 2 to 3 companions who function as support characters. Generally speaking, one of them has a distinct goal that plays a relatively big role in the story for that series, whether it be May, Dawn, or Go. But on the other hand, the original Digimon cast consisted of a whopping 8 party members, each of which are unique and bring their own interesting character dynamics into the Digidestined family. Aside from Big Hair McGee, there were 4 bros: the little guy, TK, TK's cool, level-headed, and protective big bro, Matt, the smart dude, Izzy, and the somewhat paranoid Joe. Then we had the girls, Taichi's sensitive little sister, Kari, the sweet but ditzy Mimi, and the mama figure, Soda, who was the glue that kept everyone together. That is a very big main cast, but the writers did really well by giving each character a bundle of focus episodes and by really focusing on exploring the dynamics between the different characters in the group. And boy oh boy, that original cast certainly was a solid group, and despite the arguable dip in the quality of more recent seasons, I really enjoyed seeing those classic characters grow up and pass on the torches, return years later as high school students in the 6-part Digimon Tri-film series, and return once again as adults in Digimon Adventure Last Evolution Kizuna. which serves as the real finale to the original Digimon Adventure storyline. Later series like Tamers and Digimon Data Squad shrunk down the main cast, but even so, whereas Pokemon has primarily been the Ash show since its inception, Digimon has always been more focused on the Digidestined, the Tamers, as a group, more so than picking out one individual character and devoting all of the attention to them. Of course, this isn't to say that Ash's travel companions and adversaries haven't had their time to shine, just that although we have had some really good side stories told through Serena, Dawn, and others, the pre-Pokemon Journeys show was always focused squarely on Ash. Whether you loved him or wanted to stuff him into a potato sack full of rocks and heave that sack off a bridge. Beyond the humans, we also have the monsters themselves, and apart from most Pokemon and Digimon being pretty cute, they couldn't be more different. Design-wise, Digimon have a bit of an edgier and more complex look to them, like something out of a teenager's sketchbook, sometimes a very horny teenager's sketchbook, whereas Pokemon tend to have a cleaner, softer look. Except for Gardevoir, there's nothing soft or clean about that. But the aesthetics aren't what really matters here. What really matters is that while Pokemon can't communicate with humans in a common language apart from Catman and a couple genetically engineered weirdos and ghosts, Digimon actually can talk with their human counterparts. And this drastically shifts the nature of the relationships and how both the Digimon and the human characters are developed. Moreover, whereas trainers usually have multiple Pokemon in the anime, to the point at which the most recent series has basically become a Sears catalog, in Digimon it was traditionally one Digimon per hero, with the Digimon acting as each Digidestin's BFF and protector. Having several Pokemon on hand per main character certainly jacks up the number of cast members in the Pokemon anime, but very few of them are developed as much as the Digimon partners. Most of them serve utility purposes rather than plot vehicle purposes, and, well, the fact that they can't talk makes development a little bit trickier. Of course, recent seasons of Digimon have seen tamers with multiple Digimon, because why not find more ways to peddle more merch? But that classic one-to-one formula, that really did hit different. This isn't to say that the Pokemon traveling with Ash and friends are not interesting. After all, each member adds a lot of fun to the show, and look no further than Ash's aces, Charizard, Infernape, Greninja, Palpitoad, and so on, for some pretty satisfying character arcs. At the end of the day, it is impressive that the Pokemon anime's writers have been able to tell such good stories when over half the cast are trapped in the realm of baby speak. Kudos to them for pulling it off. So we can see how the story structure and the character composition make these anime quite distinct from one another, but just to wrap this comparison up with a quick discussion of the strengths of each show, tying into the notion that we discussed earlier that Pokemon is more like a sports anime that progresses via Ash's victories and losses on a track of minor and major sporting events, whereas Digimon is driven forward by a somewhat less predictable and more serious plot. The battles in Digimon play the role of adding oomph to the narrative, but the fights themselves are generally quite underwhelming compared to what you see in Pokemon, which you would expect given that Pokemon battles bring in a team of characters with diverse movesets and plenty of strategy. Pokemon is all about the thrill of the sport and the fun of the off days, so if you're here for the battles, Pokemon is the place to be. On the other hand, naturally, as a series that progresses along a moving timeline with aging characters, Digimon actually reaches conclusions. Whereas Ash adventures in perpetuity, time flows in Digimon, people grow up, and adventures come to an end, bringing closure and a certain kind of feels that are inaccessible in the Pokemon anime, wherein Ash is built to last forever. The journey towards maturity, the sense of losing your youth, the need to finally move beyond the adventure to a normal life. Thanks to this setup, that final episode of Digimon Adventure 01, an episode that really did mark the end of an era, that gave me the chills. and growing up with the cast as they moved into their teens and adulthood, it's been a great experience. It's a journey that Ash will always be deprived of and a great strength of the Digimon story. Of course, as much as I would like to see the same thing happen with Ash, there are strengths to the floating timeline structure, namely because the core formula never changes too drastically and Ash is always there at the center of it all. The feeling of picking up an episode of the Pokemon anime, even if you have been out of it for quite a while, is similar to the feeling of returning home to your parents' house after several years away. You grew up there, you know what to expect, and it feels so relaxing just being able to take shelter from the outside world to collect yourself and get in touch with your roots. And having access to a similar brand of comfort through the Pokemon anime, that is something very special. At the end of the day, Pokemon and Digimon are two very different anime, and whichever is the better of the two will depend on what exactly you are looking for. If you're looking for a story that packs a little more depth than most shows in its category, more interesting character relationships, a different cast and plotline with each new series, and hot angels, then Digimon is probably your best bet. If you're looking for a lighthearted but passionate sports anime-like experience that builds on the games you love, dishes out great battles, and offers a comfortable place to return to whenever you feel like coming home, then Pokemon is always there waiting for you. And at the end of the day, while the Pokemon anime may be to Digimon as Appletons are to Orange Islands, they both offer viewers very fun stories with great life lessons on bettering yourself, looking out for the people around you, and making the most of the adventures that life throws our way. Personally, I am probably more attached to the Pokemon anime due to the long-running influence it has had on my life. After all, I've made about 130 videos about it in the past year. But I do love Digimon as well. Aging protagonists, family drama, Anja woman, what's not to love? But how about you? Do you prefer Pokemon or Digimon? What are the strengths and weaknesses of each show? And which anime has the best chin? Well, thank you for watching, everyone. I hope you all have a frit-tastic day. And as always, let's chat.